what's the crisis that drives the necessity to force the change?
Inequality itself, right? That inequality and addressing it now puts the Fed in a box, because the Fed now has to address, now government has actually acted, right? COVID was the spark. We talked about this already, but Trump brought the right left, right? He's a marketer. He saw the potential votes in the rusted out cities of middle America. The left and Bernie Sanders and AOC pushed the left, right? Because they saw the same thing. And this created a political now coming together. That is the crisis, right? And COVID was the spark that led to a massive fiscal stimulus. By most measures, I think most of you know this at this point, $8 to $9 trillion of fiscal stimulus has been passed, right? Which is an order of magnitude bigger than our response to the GFC. In real terms, it's an order of magnitude bigger than the New Deal. Obviously, adjusted to the size of the economy, it's about the same. So, in those terms, but this isn't the Great Depression. This isn't look around you. That is a massive fiscal response, and that is inflationary. And that means higher interest rates, which means the Fed now has a problem, because now they have a dual mandate where they have to deal with that. And that opens up, a coming likely crisis. That opens up other issues as well. Once that becomes the case and the Fed is no longer in control, now other entities, we go to money's flowing to labor and not capital. Now capital becomes more scarce, and we get into a geopolitical competition game, which is what we've seen during other periods of inflation. This is not a surprise that in the 60s and 70s, we had an OPEC oil crisis. We also had a Vietnam War that lasted kind of 15 years. These things happen when there's resource scarcity, and when money's going to corporations, you have trade between countries, you have globalization, everybody's happy, rising tide lifts all ships. But when people start getting money and it's about the people in that country that are now competing for those resources, and we become more nationalistic, we become more protectionist, and these are all things that ultimately lead to geopolitical strife as well. So again, people point to those things as all independent things that caused inflation in the 60s and 70s. It's really strange. We're seeing the exact same mix this time. Not a coincidence.
I also find it that the steps the government was emboldened to take moved through a progression of the amount of money that they would be able to spend without anybody sort of questioning it. Like you think back to Greenspan in 87, and he gets the ball rolling on intervention, and then you just see it continue on long-term capital, and then a little bit more intervention, and then we get into the great financial crisis. Oh, hey, this actually works, and so you're much more emboldened as a government body to actually take the steps. You look back, you point back and say, well, it worked there. Why wouldn't it work here? Everyone's sort of used to it, and you can just slowly dial that up through the decades as you implement it, and it appears to work, with obviously some consequences in the longer term.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, look, at the core of all of this is Greenspan's not here anymore, right? Bernanke's not here anymore. All the presidents along the way aren't here anymore, right? It's all about short-term solutions in a democracy, and that's why crises matter. So he kind of course corrects, and that causes us to solve the problems. But then you remove the crisis from the equation for 40 years. Right. And you just don't course correct for 40 years. And that just builds more and more pressure. And, you're not really removing the business cycle. You're just making it bigger and more dramatic.
It's the forest fire metaphor.
A lot of tinder at the bottom of the forest. Yeah,
that's exactly right.